The importance of having the right organizational culture and having engaged employees has been widely recognized. Many organizations include this as part of their KPIs. The importance of having people that feel motivated, inspired, and want to be involved in their organization is not only important for people to feel that need and to want to be involved, but it's part of the business metrics too. You can see it in the productivity, the profits, the innovation of the organization. It can be measured there too. However, as much as companies are starting to jump on board with the concept of culture and engagement, not many organizations are following all the way through with fully embracing engagement programs and culture programs. And the question needs to be asked, why? Firstly, culture is not a simple process. It is not a complicated process. It's actually really complex because there are so many different elements involved in creating the correct, or at least an inspiring and a motivating organizational culture. So how do you refresh or revive or recreate organizational culture? Well, how long is a piece of string? And in this case, I'd like to use a few colored pieces of wool to demonstrate exactly why it can be so daunting, the thought of recreating organizational culture. Well, when it comes to evaluating engagement, how employees feel, or exactly the pulse of an organization, many times organizations will look at a couple of elements. They'll look at leadership, values, purpose, motivation, performance, how aligned employees feel to the organization. So they look at a couple of these and they get a good idea of how employees feel. However, when they really start digging deep down into what really needs to be addressed to really shift the organizational culture, whether it be for the purpose of innovation, performance, productivity, perhaps a new product launch, or really upping the ability to compete in the market or change trajectory of the business, whatever the reason be for wanting to address workplace culture, it starts looking a little bit more like what they really need to change is this. What sits here was easy to identify. What sits here are things like communication, the innovation standards or problem-solving abilities of the organization, the customer experience. Here we have present technology of the organization or technology that was implemented but not being utilized by employees. The attitude of the employees. Is the organization siloed? Is the organizational hierarchy flat enough to really streamline communication? Somewhere down here we've got politics. The politics of the organization, the governance board, the involvement or interference of the board in the organization. How do employees give or take feedback? Performance management structures. There are so many different elements that actually play a role in creating the right organizational culture that was originally assumed to be enough with the stats and the surveys and the questions asked starts looking more like this. And that's when many businesses throw their hands in the air and say, whoa, this culture and engagement and refreshing and re-strategizing and realigning the culture is just too difficult. The answer is it's not too difficult. This just takes a complex strategy and looking at one strand at a time, and sometimes you've got to take 4 strands at a time and pull all 4 at once to get them untangled. And then it takes that strand with this strand while holding these strands and pulling them apart. It's not complicated, it's complex, but it can be done in order to totally unwind the complex ball of wool to start putting them back together to create something that not only looks good, but that is functional at the end. So for those organizations that are at the moment looking at their organization from the different metrics, don't stop. Start there by doing surveys and analyzing your human data and getting an idea of how your employees feel. But don't be scared away when you start looking at this. Don't think, how on earth can we progress forward? Because getting this information is the starting point to start creating the exact organizational culture that you're looking for. It's a complex problem, but the organizational culture that you can create on the end is exactly what you need to drive your organization forward.